Hey, screeners, you're in the mode. You're in the countdown mode. I love it. Yeah.
No, mate. 4 people joined us already. Whoop whoop. Hey guys.
Hey, do you know what? I love it. I love that it's actually there that bit quicker. Like before we are there, like people are looking for the screeners. How dare? No, that is my brother calling me. He will not be answered now. We're live.
Lol.
We're live. We're live. Yeah. So welcome, screeners. Welcome, Nico. Sorry, that buzz can be quite loud. Yeah.
Things are good.
How's life?
Things are good. The baby's chilling out. We're getting into the rhythm. It looks like I can start getting back to doing my Thai boxing. And oh my God, Francis Lalonde is here. Hello.
Right.
Ballpark Frank on Twitter. Hello, Francis Lalonde. Great to have you with us. And we've just lost AJ to the sound of his brother ringing him. It must be urgent. I'll entertain you all in the meantime. Hi, Nico Lurot here from the Silver Screen Dudes. Pedro's back. Pedro, great to have you coming back to us again. And Pedro, indeed, thank you for welcoming Francis. Francis, who's been someone who I interact with a lot on Twitter. Francis.
It's a name I recognize.
Francis Lalonde has got this evil game they like to play on Twitter. Well, they'll share a screenshot of a movie, and it's a movie you always know, but it's a screenshot that doesn't give the movie away. It's like random. And to this day, I have not been able to guess.
Oh, wow.
Any one of those. So if you guys think you're good with the movies, I really encourage you all, go follow Francis Lalonde at Ballpark Frank on Twitter and see and get put to the test, because I rate myself as a movie fan. Francis gets me every week. It's really annoying. Gavin Mann's also here. Good evening, gents. Gavin Mann, great to have you. Gavin Mann, who is someone who we likewise interact with a lot on Twitter. So it's great to have you here, Gavin Mann. And it's really good to see, actually, the work on Twitter paying off a little bit and translating into some people joining us, coming to interact with us. But enough of the shameless plugs. We're here to talk movies.
Indeed we are. So in honor of the film that I said I was going to review if time permitted, and a girlfriend with a slip disc does not permit it, so I've not had a chance to see it. I mean, if there was ever an excuse, trust me, that was the one. So in honor of the new Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, which I'm still tempted to see. I've seen mixed reviews on it. Bro, it's got mixed reviews. So there's two sides to it, mixed reviews, and two, I've tried to show the missus 1 and 2 because she's never ever seen those, and she wasn't a fan thus yet. So
she hasn't. Has she seen them or not?
Come again?
Has she seen them or not?
She's seen 1. She hasn't seen 2 yet, and even 1.
She didn't like 2. Shit, did you not? She didn't like 1?
No.
Yo, then maybe this franchise isn't for her.
Well, this is what I said to her, and this is what I said to her. I'm like, listen, if it's not for you, it's not for you, and it's like. I appreciate it because she's trying to join us on this journey, essentially, while not being on the journey. So is she tuning in right now? No. And happy belated, by the way, babe. I know you're not watching, but yes, it was her birthday yesterday.
Send her my love.
I will do. Thank you. She sends hers, by the way.
Thank you.
She won't join in on this part. She enjoys films, just not the talking of films. And she's like, oh no, but if you're going to watch it, I'll take part. And it's there, but it's like, I don't enjoy this. So I'm like, I will go without you. Obviously not right now because I'm doing my. Oh, Andy says.
Andy Hart's it.
Hey Andy, shout out to you, my friend. So like,
did you see? Did you see the previous comment? That's worth reading out. Oh my. Well, let me bring that up for you. I had a choice between Ghostbusters and you guys tonight. Ghostbusters is tomorrow. Andy,
that has even touched me even more.
Love
maximum love for that, Andy. So thank you. So yeah, she just wasn't there up for it, but she might join me in the cinema for it. So hey, that's the one. But yeah, Ghostbusters soon coming for me, to be honest. That's the way I could put it.
Cinema's still a bit of a distant memory. See, you have to make compromises when you've had a child, right? So there's things like Anya can do. Like we've agreed that she can go and get her lashes and nails done, and I'll look after the child in the meantime. And I've tried to kind of get 2 pleasures of life back. I wanted my Thai boxing to be able to come back, and I wanted cinema to be able to come back. I am not being given both. I may have one pleasure for this guy. So I've picked Thai boxing for now because I can still watch movies, in the multitude of places that we watch movies. Just new releases are going to be a bit of a tricky one, but we'll see what happens in December. But for now, this Friday, I get to go back and punch people in the face. Really excited.
Don't do violence, kids. We're not condoning violence, but yes, I get
No,
where
but
you're
we are condoning the learning of martial arts to protect yourself.
going. Okay. Oh, because I haven't hooked you up just yet. This one from Pedro Santos might really get you excited, my friend.
Seen it, and I actually just checked just now. It's still UK locked.
Okay, so
Frank's here. Frank Torres in the house. Hello, everyone. Are you in full Bradley Cooper Silver Linings Playbook mode with the Eagles? My guy knows. And Pedro, this is a Philadelphia Eagles jersey, my bro. Yeah, I just thought I'd embrace my NFL fanboy tonight. Also, it was the only clean T-shirt I had after being puked on multiple times this week. So it's laundry day. AJ, enough about us. Let's talk movies. Come on.
Right. So as I said, it's in line with Ghostbusters. So I'll spin on it, especially because we've milked everything. And this is where I was like, damn, this was meant to be our Halloween episode for next year. But Ghostbusters came out this year. We are talking top 10 family-friendly horror movies. Now, guys, you are going to say, but what do you mean by family-friendly horror movies? We're talking about a slight element of scare. Some could be slightly adventure. Some could be otherwise said. Just has an element of scare to it. There was one I really toyed with that I thought isn't a horror. It's one that's near and dear to both of us. Oh shit! Even that could have. Okay, all right, fair enough. That's two elements.
Could you externalize your internal monologue, please?
Well, I don't want to say it in case it's come up on your list. One was an animation featuring dinosaurs, which is quite freaky in the beginning. Okay, but then it's a journey that's quite chilling as a kid to watch, actually. For sure. And then there was the other one that features dinosaurs, and it actually just hit me now. Like, oh, that probably could have had an element of horror. It's got the chill.
Debatable. It freaked you out.
It did. It did. One particular scene did. Yeah. Is it on your list?
No.
So I'm talking Land Before Time and Ghostbusters.
Jurassic Park.
Sorry, it's in honor of Ghostbusters, but yeah, not too sure. Yeah, so you have to work with us. If it's got a ghoul or if it's got an element of freakiness to it, it can fall into that category.
It's been a really tricky one, actually, because it's the way you've just kind of touched on it is the difficulty we've had. Just quickly, Mixed Memorabilia says, hello, guys, and the rest of the film family. Mixed Memorabilia, great to have you here. Andy Hart kind of touches on why this is a bit of a tricky one, because not sure it's still horror if it's family friendly. And this is very much the reaction I got from people when I put the question out on Twitter. Follow us at Movie MT Rushmore if you don't already. But when I put the question out, like, what's the best family friendly horror movie? It really split people. Like, there were kind of 4 or 5 that kept on cropping up. But then I heard, I think it was Mixed Memorabilia who said Tremors, and Andy Hart who said Jaws. And I was like, yo, no. No.
Do you know what? Let me be honest, right? There was a few films that 2 films particularly who have just made the list for me, right? That when I first checked it, the rating looked high. Then I ended up on the BBFC, or whatever it is, the certificate website, and it showed there were 12. Now, I'm willing to go with 12. If it's a 15, I think you're pushing levels, right?
I think you are.
Yeah. So it's got to be at least a 12 PG universal. I don't know how many universals you're really going to get out of this, right? And that
PG-13 as it's called now.
Do we have PG-13 over here?
I think we only have PG-13 over here now.
No, I thought we had universal PG.
You and 12 is gone, mate. I swear it's
12
gone.
12 and 12A. 12A still exists.
You are quite right. We don't have PG-13. I don't know why I'm embracing my Americana tonight. Who knew? Francis Lalonde says, lol, an old college friend keeps trying to introduce his granddaughter to horror, but his wife has imposed strong, stiff limits on his choices. And this is very, very much something. And Andy says, I'm sure Jaws was PG when I was a kid. Andy, you're young then. And I feel like you and me are roughly the same age, just based on how many movies you know. If not, well played on your movie knowledge. Here's the thing. Tremors is gory. There's bloody. There's people being bitten in half. Jaws kind of likewise. Like Jaws, when it was released, I believe was R-rated because it freaked people out so much. I'm not here to pick apart Tremors and Jaws. That's not the point of this. What I'm trying to insinuate is that it was really hard finding a movie that was both horror and also family friendly. Like the two do not mesh easily. Like there are some where it's like, yes, clearly that makes the list. But there are others where it's like, I don't feel like people consider you a horror. But if we break it down a bit, it could be all sorts of messed up for a kid.
Yeah, and this is what I kind of thought of. Like, it's weird because, again, a horror for a kid can't shake the living shit out of you. It can't scar you for life. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to be like, oh, look, here's The Exorcist, enjoy. Like, do you know what I mean?
My number two. Just saying.
Okay, well, I'll have to see
rewatched it. Still fucks me up to this day.
Maybe, but what I'm getting at is you still have some levels. Like there are scarring and then there's deep scarring, isn't it? So it has to put a level of tension in you. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know. There are certain Disney films that could play that. I don't want to say anything in case it made your list, but you know, some of them have been an adventure and it has those elements of fear to it. But it needs to hit those beats a few times along the way for me, I think. And it's a difficult one. Yeah.
But let's get into it then if it's hard.
Yeah, okay. So before we do, would you like to tell everyone what the movie Mount Rushmore is all about?
Yes, indeed. So for those of you tuning in for the first time, what is the movie Mount Rushmore? It's basically a top 10 show between two best friends from school. How does the show work? AJ and I each get a Sunday list. We go our separate ways and we come right back here and record to you live or in podcast. We are available on iOS, Android, Spotify, every podcast platform you can think of. We come back here. AJ has got the list down there. Thank you so much, AJ. And we come back here. We deliver to you, the Silver Screen Dudes, the film fans of the world, our individual top 10s. This week, AJ will go first, delivering his bottom three. You will indeed.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I will then deliver my bottom three. AJ will deliver his next two. I will deliver my next two. And then we will trade one apiece. If at any time, while we are rounding off our individual top 10 lists, one person has a movie in a higher position, that person will say...
punt.
And we will punt and talk about that movie when we get to the higher position. Once we have both rounded off our individual top 10 lists, we will combine and create the movie Mount Rushmore. These are the 4 quintessential, diverse, must-see movies of the genre, which this week is...
Top 10 family-friendly horror movie. It's funny you put that picture. It's funny you put that picture.
I thought you'd like that. I don't really like that. Definitely counts.
We shall discuss later because I don't know.
We shall. There may have to be some justification on individuals' parts here. Just before we start, Mixed Memorabilia says, would it be accurate to say that many watched Jaws when they were young, very young, like Andy and I did? Sure. That doesn't make it family friendly.
listen, let's be honest.
I watched Dracula when I was 6. That was
this is what I was going to say. American Werewolf in London or Paris.
London, surely.
Well, London. Misery. Exorcist. The Shining.
Also those way too young.
Stuff that we've seen, but it's more to do with certificate. It has to work on certification. That's the way we have to work with it on this. So
indeed,
if you snuck in and watched a TV or a video, or you watched a late night movie, or you was able to get your way into a cinema illegally by certificate standards, it doesn't count. That's the way we have to
right. This is I'm kind of putting myself in the mindset of when my daughter starts watching movies in we haven't put a fucking firm time on it, but let's say when she's 5 or 6, are these movies which I could sit her in the couch next to me, put this on and be like, honey, it's a bit freaky, but you're going to enjoy it. That's kind of where I'm getting at.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the sort of thing where you go, okay, that's enough Nick Jr. Now it's time for The Exorcist. That's not going to
happen. It's not going to happen.
If it's in your conscience that you would do that.
Gavin Mann says Temple of Doom is a shout. Riri Thomas is back. Great to have you as always, Riri. Good evening to you both. This one is very difficult, and I'm intrigued to hear your choices. You shall. Mixed Memorabilia says, my shout to Gremlins, The Mummy, and Arachnophobia. These are all very interesting choices. The Boss says, hey, fellas, what up, The Boss? Francis Lalonde says, saw The Monster of Piedras Blancas when I was about 7 to 8. Scared the hell out of me. Not seen that one. We'll have to check it out.
What is it?
Mixed Memorabilia says Teen Wolf. Actually, yeah, you could make an argument for that. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban could be, for sure. It's got elements of horror to it. And Pedro says, I saw Silence of the Lambs in theaters at 11 years old. My father took me without having a clue of what the film was about. Halfway through, He asked me if I did, to which I replied, yes.
So this is the kind of thing we're talking about. It's not technically what should have been allowed. Like,
No.
you wanted to get in, so fair play. But yeah, like, no.
But without further ado, AJ, over to your number 10.
Right. Okay. In at number 10 for me.
Got my phone ready.
Right. Based off of a Roald Dahl book, recently remade, but I've gone with the original. I am going with Witches.
Not seen this one. Fire away.
Have you seen either of them?
Nope. Fire away, my
Right.
friend.
You know what? It's one of the rare books I hadn't seen, but I remember seeing a lot about the film about it. This film, I remember watching it a few times with a kid. My cousin showed it to me a lot. And I kind of watched the remake with my girlfriend who hated it. And the funny thing is, for anyone who's read the book, anyone who's seen this film and the other film, basically, so we're talking about witches who capture kids and essentially eat them. And you start to see all the different traits of a witch, like they always wear gloves because of their fingers, and they've got, they hide their faces. There's all these little bits behind it, quite scary. And they do change the children into mice. There are some of the kids who have infiltrated this witches meeting have been turned into mice. Interesting fact about this, right? For anyone who hates the new version, they're like, oh, in the original movie they were changed back to children. The second one, he was left as a mouse, voiced by Chris Rock, no less. That's ridiculous. That's stupid, right? Yeah. Why did they do that? They've ruined the film. It was actually the way Roald Dahl wrote it. They were meant to be mice at the end. The kid stays a mouse, actually. So for all of you who have a hatred on that film,
You're so proud of yourself for that bit of knowledge, aren't you?
I am, because I was like, why did they do that? And I actually found out that he actually hated this Hollywood version because they Hollywoodized it. If it was, it had to have a happy ending where they came back. So it was always one of those films that I always found kind of freaky. It stars Angelica Houston, I remember, as like the lead witch, and it just had these elements of chills to it. I've never read the book, so I can't compare it to it. But when you start to see them coming out from your average woman to the witches that they become, quite freaky. Quite a freaky film. And it has this element of tension behind it of, will they get caught, will they not get caught, what's going to happen at the end. It put a few chills into me. So The Witches is my number 10.
Gavin Mann approves of your choice, giving you a round of applause. Frank Torres has something to add to this, which is the original Witches is a classic. The Anne Hathaway remake is CGI gone wrong. Disappointing.
Anne Hathaway is the one where they remained witches.
Andy Hart supports you. Read the book when I was a kid. AJ is spot on. And the Nicholas Rogue was great. Didn't see the new one.
So that must be the Angelica Houston / the original, as it were, in terms of films. Right, in at number 9, not as freaky, but I really appreciated what Pixar done with this one. Quite a new one on the grid.
Yeah, I know where you're going. Yeah.
Coco.
Yeah. I thought you'd bring this up.
Bro, it's a film that I didn't know what I was going to expect. I don't even know how it... No, it wasn't Disney Plus. It must have been on Netflix at the time. It wasn't The Pirate. I'll put my hands up to that. I remember my aunt was like, what's this about? And I'm like, I actually don't know. And it was just seeing how cultures celebrate passing. And I just found it so educational and inspiring. It's sweet. It's really, as much as it has that element of death and skeletons and all of that part, it's got the underworld to it. It's really something to embrace. I don't know what it's like from a younger kid's point of view, so I can't say it was the shit shakers for me or anything like that.
No, it's not.
But if you're going to talk family-friendly horror, you're talking about kids having to witness the underworld. They are going to be uncomfortable with it. We're talking skeletons. We're talking those.
Your family dying, like.
Yeah, exactly. It's all of those parts, and it's the honoring of the past and going back to meet these names that you've heard of, as well as the ones who have recently passed, and accepting as well of it all. And it's a touching. It can be quite touching, and it's something to take in, but educational for me as well at the same time. That's what I
went to Mexico last year, actually, and Dia de la Muerta had just finished. Really cool. Like, you could still see like the remnants of the day and of the festivals that had been happening. Kind of like, we got some of those, very touristy, but we got some of those skulls with all the Dia de la Muerta face paint on. Really, really cool. Like, as you said, it's a part of like Mexican culture I wasn't overly familiar with. And, as always with any movie, they kind of embellish a bit what the reality is. But I thought it was a cool cultural insight. I beautifully handled, I thought.
Bro, I wouldn't disagree. Like, it's that. Okay, yes, we have Halloween, so it's not the world's most shocking, like, culture clash. But it was interesting to see how it's celebrated over there. Even the input of music to it was like, oh, that's an interesting twist. That's a new spin. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
The boss agrees with you. Nice choice, AJ. And
Thank
Pedro
you very much.
Sanctos says, just a quick mention to Hammer Films here. Not intended as family friendly, but I watched Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee a lot as a kid. Frankenstein, Dracula, Mummy, also good. So good.
Listen, that as well as it was more the TV series than the film, so it won't count. But Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember watching the TV series to that. That was like interesting. Like these are the stuff that we again shouldn't have been watching. And I always say it, as much as they're not as wild, the Hammer horrors are the ones that I stuck to as horrors. Like, I don't do horror. And I'm like, yeah, these ones were, it's quite interesting when you go back to that. Okay.
Of course.
Fromage. But yeah, I still wrote the way they made it something. So big shout out to the Hammer horrors there.
Your number 8?
Number 8.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if it's a horror, but I love this little guy.
Defend it then.
Everyone's favorite ghost. I'm talking Casper, the Friendly Ghost.
Yeah, well, it's convenient you say that because that's my number 10.
Oh, right.
Very nice. Of course it counts. Of course it bloody counts.
I mean,
it's literally a kiddie horror movie.
It is actually. The more I think about it and I go back over the parts of the film, we are talking death. We are talking. It's a haunted house. Someone is literally walking into a haunted house. So much so that even one of our referenced our in honorees come up and go, "Who are you going to call?" Someone else. Like it really. I always thought that was a classic line of that film. Like it really gives you the element of this house is haunted, and yeah, no one can really help. Yet here we are going to take this on.
When was the last time you watched this?
It's been a while.
So I rewatched it for this very list.
Okay.
Man, it makes 10 by proxy, in all honesty. It's aged. It's really, really aged. I don't just mean in terms of the CG. I mean in terms of the type of acting. I mean in terms of the film construction. I mean, pretty much everything in this movie feels like a product of its time now, and not in a good way. I don't look at it because I had that VHS as a kid, and I burnt the fuck out of that VHS. Like I loved Casper. Loved Casper as a kid. Loved it. Rewatched it.
This is why I say, are you talking on the horror element, or are you just talking as a
no? I'm talking the movie as a whole. It definitely qualifies as a horror. Of course, it bloody does. Listen, Casper's infinitely cute. The thing I cannot tolerate in that movie is Carrigan, the villain. So bad. Like
that is a product of its time. That is always going to be a product of it. So yeah. It's how you built a movie villain back then, especially for a kids film. It's I think I watched Problem again. You haven't seen this, but Problem Child 2. I remember looking back at that and I was like, oh, okay, here we go again. You it's such an easy blueprint back then. I get where you're going. I don't know.
It's so stupid. It's so bloody stupid because the whole thing is Casper wants to come back to life so he can, share a moment with Christina Ricci, right? That's the whole crux of the movie. And yeah, there's a beautiful sacrifice at the end where he lets the father come back to life who's died instead of himself. And there's a very noble thing you did tonight. So you get a bit of a Cinderella story ending. But the thing that I'm just like, yo, come on. I know it's the 90s, but a little bit of effort here, please. So Casper's dad has built this thing called the Lazarus machine. Now, that's plot armor. I can roll with the dad being completely smitten with grief and therefore wanting to devote his life into building a machine that can bring his son back from the dead. I'm down with that. What powers the Lazarus machine? Literally magic juice. I'm like, come on. This is asking a little bit much of me.
But in a world...
And of course, there's only enough left for one go at this thing. Because a man intelligent enough of building a machine that can bring his son back from the dead is only going to make one bit of this juice. I'm sorry. You've lost me.
Did he actually make the juice? This is a very... I have to really scratch my head on this.
It's bad. That was the point where the movie went, oh dear, we've run out of ideas.
If
Magic
they're
juice.
gonna play the game, it's not something that it's something that was unethical. If his dad was that smart, he knows it's unethical. It was to bring back his son through tragedy. It's not for us to forever live immortally and this, that, and the other. So maybe he did make just enough for one. I can't remember why his parents died, so he didn't use it when they were around. But yeah, from an ethical standpoint, maybe I'm just playing the game.
Okay, fine. Casper is worthy of being on this list. I'm telling you, it's bad. It's not a very good movie anymore. Few comments have come in. Pedro, in regards to your Coco selection, Coco was brilliant. The metaphor for crossing countries and borders is beautiful. Gavin Mann says Coco is on the watch list. Heard it's a bit of a tearjerker. It is. There's one scene in particular with someone who gets forgotten that really is a tearjerker. The boss says, when I was a kid, I loved Harryhausen monster movies. Yeah, they're freaking great. Harryhausen, check him out. Andy Hart says, I met Christopher Lee when I was 10. No idea who he was. About a month later, I watched Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Still my favorite Dracula movie. You met Christopher Lee. I'm not going to pretend I'm not jealous at all, Andy. And then Andy then goes on to say, Dracula is how I stumbled across the movie Mount Rushmore. Well, thank you. Thank you, Vlad.
Interesting. That's an interesting way of putting it. Thank
Francis
you.
Lalonde agrees with the boss and says Harryhausen rules. Pedro Sanctos says, I'm guessing there's a good reason to why you guys skipped the Raiders of the Lost Ark comments. No, actually, sorry, Pedro. I didn't even notice those. My bad. I don't think Raiders of the Lost Ark counts in this list. Adventure, not horror. Although it's got scary parts to it, I guess.
Yeah, it's more adventure for me. Yeah, sorry, Pedro. That was really not. That really wasn't intentional.
Not intentional.
I'm not gonna let it make this for me. So yeah, it really wasn't intentional.
Thomas says Casper stinks of the 90s. Preach to that, Riri. Andy then goes on to say, just Google Jaws. It was an A in How was Jaws an A in 1975? I swear to God, this thing was R-rated or 15. Anyway, it was A in 1975 on the old system. Became A on video release based on the new system. A and PG are about the same. Reclassified as 12A for a cinema release in 2012. So Jules wins. We all get an early night. No. No.
He's trying to make it to Ghostbusters.
No.
He's like, I can still make it. He's outside.
Still make it to Ghostbusters Afterlife. Pedro Sanders says, Andy Hart, Jaws or Raiders? Which one would you go with in this specific spot? Neither. We're diversifying our list this week, guys. No Jaws. No indie. We've brought them up too much.
And even if
Frank Torres says, saw Casper on opening weekend in 95. Wow. More simpler times when we weren't expected to think aside. Oh, yes. Magic juice. And Andy Hart says, Pedro Sanctos, Jaws plus Rocky, Star Wars, The Godfather always wins if they make the poll. They're not making the poll. There's no Jaws. There's no Jaws this week. So that was your number 8 and my number 10. Yeah.
Quickly, Pedro says, Andy Hart, despite his many iconic roles, Christopher Lee will always be Scaramanga to me, my favorite Bond nemesis. Jealous of your story.
Do you know who he's always going to be for me, Pedro? I love that comment, by the way. For me, he's always going to be Saruman. Not necessarily his biggest role, but when you watch the making of documentaries of The Lord of the Rings and you learn that Christopher Lee was very, very good friends with J.R.R. Tolkien, and Christopher Lee knew the machinations of Tolkien's mind, and he was assisting Peter Jackson with directing certain scenes and saying, no, that tone should be up a bit and that one down. Like, he was assisting because he knew the source material so well. All the cast members are saying how it felt like a bit like having the ghost of Tolkien on set. That story for me is like Saruman is the one for me, man.
But in fairness, Christopher Lee in a Bond film is also quite touching. You know the story behind that as well, yeah?
Mm-mm.
Ian Fleming is Christopher Lee's cousin and actually wrote it.
What?
Yeah.
No shit.
So his vision of Bond was actually Christopher Lee. I don't know how. I can't remember. I saw it somewhere. I have a screenshot. I think I put it in our comic book group once. But there's this whole thing about how awesome Christopher Lee is because he ruled as Dracula. He knew Tolkien and was in Lord of the Rings, and his cousin was Fleming, who based Bond off of him. So yeah,
he's awesome, Christopher Lee. God, I was so sad when he died. Yeah, so that was your number 8, my number 10. My number 9, AJ, get your finger ready on the punt button, please. My number 9 is The Addams Family.
Bro,
the fuck?
no. So, do you know what? I remember I have seen it, but it is such a blank to me from when I saw it. TV series I could do all day long. I have blanked out on this film so badly. Like Casper was edgy to me, Witches was edgy. Addams Family is a blank, like blank. And I've seen both Addams Family and Values, but I'm like not only meshing them, I'm blanking on too many parts. I'm like, is it one? Was it two? Which one's better? I had to leave it.
So again, I rewatched this for this list, and again, I thought this was going to be much higher in my list than it was. And I rewatched, I'm like, it's nostalgia. It's nostalgia that I love you for, because you're not very good.
But do you know what? Can I say? Sorry to interrupt, but both Casper and Addams Family are just that nostalgia, the excitement based off of their TV shows that doesn't necessarily make them great movies, if I'm honest.
No, it doesn't. It really, really, really doesn't. And look, the song, they're creepy and they're kooky, sums it up perfectly, because they're a family that's a bit different. They display the same family values. The husband, cara mia, is still very, very, very in love with his beautiful wife. Again, Angelica Houston, here she comes back again. And you've got Wednesday and Pugsley, the brother and sister who are trying, their big shtick is they're trying to kill each other, essentially. And they're encouraged to do it because the Addams family, right?
Sorry.
And, what's up?
Yeah, go, continue. I'll bring him up after.
And then, Lurch, for me, Lurch just looks like a beta Harry Kane, or a Harry Kane just looks like a modern day Lurch. I'm sorry. Look at the man. I know he's England captain, but you try find me an image online of Harry Kane with his mouth closed. He is such a mouth breather. Duh. He's proper duh, mate. And I really rate Harry Kane, but he is proper duh. Tell me he doesn't look like Lurch. Last footballer who looked like Lurch was Phil Neville. Phil Neville looked like Lurch too. Big man. Harry Kane looks like Lurch. And the last footballer who looked like Lurch was Phil Neville. Facts. Proper duh. I went there, didn't I? Watch all the unsubscribe. Fuck you! How dare you insult the great Harry Kane? Bah!
And you say all of this while wearing an NFL jersey. I love it. Like it's just which is
America. But look, the movies, the story of the Addams family is really basic. They're sitting on this absolute fortune. They find someone who looks like Uncle Fester, who actually turns out to be the real Uncle Fester, played by Christopher Lloyd. And he initially is trying to help the person who set him up to try and get the Addams family's money. And then it backfires because he finds out that he's actually fucking Uncle Fester. And then he takes the Addams family. It's like, whatever. It's proper whatever.
See, even that I thought was values. So, a few comments. Gavin Mann says, speaking of Christopher Lee, does Gremlins 2 make the list? Wait and see. Pedro Sanctos says, I liked Addams Family values better than the first one.
Cosign.
Okay. Yeah, you put the other one in. Fair enough. Your choice. This is the one that made me laugh. Frank Torres said, Addams Family and Casper. This could be a Christina Ricci movie, Mount Rushmore. Her and Angelica Houston take the top spot for like 2 films. Well played. And Pedro Sanctos says, heard new animated versions of the Addams Family are pretty good, but have not seen them. Co-sign on that. I have not seen
Co-sign on that as well. Haven't got around to seeing them. All right, so that was my number 9. My number 8. Well, was it Gavin Mann who asked it just now? Let me find the comment. Come, big man. Why have I gone blind? It was Gavin Mann. So to answer that question, Gremlins 2 does not make the list, but in at number 8, Gremlins 1.
Right. Interesting. Now, as you know, this is a plot hole. This is a movie plot hole for me. I have not seen it, right?
Still not fixed that problem, huh?
I was saying I am going to do it for this. Now, when I checked, and this wasn't on BBFC, just for argument's sake, I saw it as a 15. I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm trying to cover other movies. But I don't know if it is a 12. I think when I checked after, when I was on this page and I'm double checking films, I think it fell under a 12, so you're lucky. But when I first done it, it said 15. That's why I'm not arguing with you. but I thought it was a 15, and I was like, ah, shit, I missed that.
I mean, to make Gremlins a 15 is proper fucking stupid, if you ask me. Like, yeah, the Gremlins, when they get nasty, are legitimately quite nasty, especially in this first one, which is much more hardcore than the second one. The second one's a barrel of fun. You've got the talking gremlin, you've got the gremlin with the freaking salad ears, you've got like the gargoyle bat gremlin and the spider gremlin. Like, they just go nuts in the second one. But the first one is legitimately quite creepy. You know, there's scenes where they're stabbing the gremlins, putting them in microwaves, but they melt at the end. So yeah, there's some really gruesome parts to it. There's some quite gnarly deaths, but maybe I'm a terrible parent, but I wouldn't have too much remorse showing that to my daughter.
Bro,
to be
fair,
honest
most people I knew saw Gremlins at a young age, right?
Yeah,
It's just something my dad just didn't have any time for. So he's like, I'm not watching that shit. And that was essentially where it got to. So I was kind of shocked. But when I was like, should I check it? And then I know we've always crossed that line as kids of sneaking in to watch a film. So I was like, oh, I'm going to watch Gremlins. And when I thought, let me just double check if the certificate's right, I saw 15. And I was like, well, I'm not going to cross that. 15 is definitely not family friendly.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. So you kind of given a touch thing, but before we, if you want to go any deeper, just want to say that Andy Hart said on your Addams Family side, I love the characters and casting of the Addams Family, but the films are average at best. Agreed. I think the casting was very good. I would agree with that. The casting was spot on, in fact. Francis Lalonde said, love the Addams Family films, but would debate family-friendly status, some strong topics, unlike the TV series. TV series was a lot lighter. Pedro Santos, Gremlins would be in my top 3. I was very scared of them as kids.
Spike in it.
Dora says, the Gremlin jump scares in the laboratory stayed with me for quite some time. There we are. Andy says the second Gremlins is more of a comedy.
Straight up. Absolutely.
Pedro Santos says Gremlins had such a good score.
Brilliant.
And Andy says BBFC gave the uncut film a 15 certification in August 1984. Gremlin remained a 15 until November 2012 when a submission of a theatrical re-release given a 12A certificate. So you just scraped it, dude. You just scraped it.
Damn.
I hope you're talking uncut version. You're talking the cut version, yeah? You're talking the cut to qualify, yeah?
Be a bit Harry Kane if I wasn't, wouldn't it?
Leave it out,
mate. Anyway, that was my bottom 3. What's your number 7?
My number 7. So you mentioned this film previously, and I made sure I got a chance to see it.
My man, what we got?
This is my cultural pick of the week. This is Spirited Away.
Oh, that's a pun.
Okay, cool. So that was my number 7. In at number 6, I believe Riri Thomas brought this up.
Aha! Riri, this one's for you.
This was one that I would agree with. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had stopped quite early and then gone through the films and done it all with the missus. This one actually does know how to put the chills in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it actually done quite well. The Dementors were displayed perfectly.
Beta Nazgul, sorry.
Beta what?
Nazgul. Ring rates, my friend. Ring rates. The
right, okay.
Black Riders.
Yeah, I get you. But of course, I don't want to diss because I know she's going for a bit of a problem at the moment. But what was really original in all of J.K. Rowling's? Like, you could see inspiration from everywhere.
Big time.
I'm going to see it in the films as well. So I do believe it had it all. Even the edge of Sirius Black before we knew who he was, that has you on edge. It throughout, it feels that bit darker. Like you think of the first one, it's all bright and cheery. Yes, it has a moment,
much darker,
and it goes really dark in this one. And I love the twist. I love it. It really captured me. And I was like, oh, here we go. This is a bit of edge. The characters are a bit more grown up, so they can handle it. Part of the journey. It's like, okay, guys, you've had your happy times. Let's take you to a new level now. And
there was so much good acting in this film. Fucking Daniel Radcliffe still to this day can't act, so I'm not talking about him. But I mean, Emma Watson really started growing into her skin and into this role. And then, you know, you bring in Gary Oldman, you're always bringing A-class to the game. But David Thewlis, man, as Remus Lupin, so good. So fucking good. And of course,
Timothy Spall of Scabbard.
Timothy Spall
whatever Scabbard is,
as Peter Pettigrew, and of course Michael Gambon having to take over as Dumbledore. Like the
Yeah.
film oozes class as far as acting is concerned. And yeah, Andy Hart's right. You know, no, that's the by far the best Potter film. It is. Riri Thomas gives you applause, class, AJ, and
Thank you.
Yeah. And Francis Lalonde says, Azkaban definitely has scares, but no overt gore. Yeah, and for that reason, it qualifies.
It's family friendly. This is how you play the family friendly game. You know, I think they done it. They had everything in it. It really had the elements of tension in it for sure.
Gavin Mann appreciates my Nazgul scream, by the way. Ha!
Cool. So that was my number 6, dude. Over to you.
Okay, so my number 7, say his name 3 times. I'm not talking about Candyman. I'm talking about Beetlejuice.
5 times, and that's also a punt.
Okay, thank you for correcting me. My number 6, okay. People are going to say this isn't a horror. I'm going to have to fight hard for this one. My number 6, Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, damn.
You pull something?
That was a lock in my back that I didn't expect. Well, yeah, I'm
easy
all right.
there, man. You're getting old. Same as me. We, I should say. We.
Yeah. So I would be remiss to not say happy 30th anniversary to Belle and her Beast. Yeah, that's yesterday, was it not?
Correct.
Yesterday or today? Yeah.
16th of November officially. The 30th anniversary of Beauty and the Beast.
So wherever I saw that post was absolutely wrong. That's interesting. Maybe it was a UK release because I know we were slightly off back then.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'd like to take a quick moment now to say
the opener has horror. It starts to ease.
Nope. I can defend this shit till the cows come home. Sorry. Completely disagree. It's not just the opener. So first off, I'd like to say to everyone who joined me on my Harry Potter 20-year anniversary retro review last week, thank you. This coming Thursday, I'm going to be doing a retro review for Beauty and the Beast, which is 30 years old.
Dude,
the fuck?
So old. It made me feel so old when I heard that. Like,
bro,
the fact that I hear that says I was 6 years old when I went to the cinema. I remember the cinema experience, and I like, yeah. Obviously, I know where I'm at, but to hear it in figures like that is scary as, man.
So there are a few moments in Beauty and the Beast, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on the whole movie now because I'm doing a fucking major review for it this Thursday. Please come and join us on the channel then. It should be at about 5 p.m. BST if you can. I would love to welcome you all again. But the moments that are specifically horror. So you're right in saying the opening, you know, she transformed into a beautiful princess and he begged for forgiveness. He begged for forgiveness, but it was too late, for she had seen that there was no good in his heart. And as punishment, she transformed him into a horrible beast, right? And then it cuts to him. You see the beast claws and raking the painting and then him sort of balling up so you don't see the face yet. So yeah, that beginning is very unsettling. Then you've got the whole part with Maurice, Papa, running through the forest.
Yeah.
First off, he's chased by the wolves. They're not nice at all. Then you have the moment when he arrives in the castle. Now, you remember Cogsworth is saying all the time, no, not the master's chair. Now, you've got this thing they did in this scene, which to this day sends shivers down my spine because, yes, it was animated, so officially they weren't using cameras, but the angle with which they chose to film this scene still sends shivers down my spine because all you hear is, you know, that wind comes in, the fireplace goes out, and then you just hear that roar, and then Lumiere, Master, the gentleman was lost in the woods, and we thought it would be okay to, right? And then you see him for the first time with the light coming behind him. There's a stranger in here, right? And then you've got Maurice freaking shaking in the chair. He looks to the left of the chair, nothing. He looks to the right, and the freaking face of the beast is here, like here. And I'm sorry, that's some scary imagery. What are you staring at? You've come to stare at the beast, have you? Come on, scary as F. Then you've got the part where Belle arrives in the castle and she tells him, come into the light. That shit's scary. Then you've got the whole fight with the wolves. That's unpleasant. And then, can I remind you, despite the fact that we had the best Disney song ever in No One's Quick as Gaston, No One's Slick as Gaston. Yeah, so we've had LeFou and Gaston and all their merry men kind of become pastiche villains here, right? Flip that script at the end, because Gaston goes full fucked up villain at the end, right? And that whole scene where they're raiding the castle, I'm not talking about where the castle creatures and characters come to life, because that's obviously comedic. The fight between the Beast and Gaston, initially Gaston has the upper hand, right? But then the Beast goes beast mode on him, and you can see the fear in Gaston's eyes, and the Beast starts hunting him. That's intense.
I'd have to revisit. I can't remember the final fights. I remember this. I would go more for the violent than horror, but you make some good points. I wouldn't dismiss entirely. Two things though, just because we brought up Beauty and the Beast and Casper. I remember those are two films when I was like, I preferred Casper as a ghost than a boy, and I always thought the Beast was a lot better looking than the man he became after as well. I also remember
Prince Adam.
Yeah, I thought he was a weird. I'm not like I don't.
It was a weird. It was a weird look they gave him.
It wasn't the most like redeeming. Oh my god, Prince! I was like, oh really? I think
we've had a comment though that I need to address. So XSM, first off, well done for actually knowing this movie, but secondly, hell no. Number one should be Martin. Fuck no. Fuck no. Family friendly?
No for the American, hell no to the original French version. Like never. No.
That French film is one of the most depressing, gory things we both. You finished it. I had to turn it off. And I'm the horror guy. It fucked me up. I was like, nah, I'm done.
No. Yes, there's a no.
Martyrs is a horrible film. Horrible. Blah. So yeah, I appreciate Beauty and the Beast is like Disney's magnum opus. It's either that or The Lion King. I'd still always lean this because it won the Oscar.
I think there's still a trifecta. Aladdin always comes and creeps in and that kind of.
It's not the same level of quality. Aladdin's my favorite, but it's not on the same level as Beast and Lion King. Come on.
I'm just saying.
Riri Thomas, Sherlock Holmes, Hand of the Baskervilles. That's a bloody good shout, Riri. That used to scare the fluck out. The fluck?
Do you know what? I've not seen the
old
Holmes movies. I'm going to be honest.
No, the Hand of the Baskervilles is creepy. That's a great shout from Riri. Francis Lalonde says, The Wicker Man from 1973. Fun, but not for the whole family. And Andy Hart says, Martyrs is a fantastic film. Yes, truly brilliant and so cold in its delivery and certainly not for families. So that was my number 6. And guys, again, full Beauty and the Beast review, half an hour, 40 minutes long this coming Thursday. Please join me, 5 p.m. BST. AJ, we're in the business
I was
end of
making a note of a to watch. Right, so that was my number 6. Right, in at number 5, another film that I made sure I had watched for this topic.
Punt.
Tim Burton's. Okay, fair enough. Over to you.
The punt from earlier, that would be Spirited Away. Hayao Miyazaki-san's masterpiece. I'd like you to run with this as it's the first time you saw it.
I think you will do it more justice than I will, but I will still go with it. I enjoyed it. The reason it was low for me is because, we're dealing with ghosts and spirits, but it wasn't. I didn't have elements of scare to it. Do you understand? And that's where I was like, where do I want to go with it? I had this initial part where they're driving through the town, and I found it very weird and very undisciplined, which later on paid off when they talked about how the parents were just eating food. How dare they? Like, I was like, who does that? Oh, we'll just pay for it after. Like, no, you don't. And then I just found that a lot of the elements behind it didn't have, how can I say it? It was weird basis behind it. Now, maybe I am too Hollywoodized in looking for answers in some of my stuff, but I've got this part where she meets Haku and they've previously met before, but no, he's not a boy. He's a dragon. And I'm like, okay, cool, I can deal with that. And it was all these elements of it, and then the witch becomes a twin, and it was literally two sides to. It was very mixed. Like you have the elements. Obviously, I'm seeing a new portrayal of how I'm seeing a Far East vision of ghouls, if you would, the way they're displaying.
For sure, these are all very, very Japanese kappa. So
yeah, so
demons.
this is what I'm looking at. So I appreciated the story. I didn't like the payoff at the end, if I'm honest. I was like, really? Is that it? Okay, is that where we are? But there was a lot to take in. I think the story was I didn't get bored, if you would.
No,
so
you can't.
It's visually beautiful. I understand why you guys wanted to,
creatively insane, right?
Yeah. There's a lot to it, but there was something about what I shouldn't link them because the other one's not Studio Ghibli, but it was this and The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. That's what hit me at the end when I got the ending. I was like, why do you guys have these kind of endings that just have me like, huh?
Read up on them, mate.
Come again?
Read up on them. Read up on why Miyazaki makes the creative decisions he does. There's usually some further reading required to get a full.
This is what I think might have been the thing. So it's very artistic, and that's what I appreciated about it. It's very artistic, and I'm not talking just visually, conceptually. The ideas behind everything, the thought process, like that big, kind of reminded me of, was it Clayface from Batman? That big monster who was really. And she realizes that it's something, and then she thinks it's just a twig and starts tugging away and realizes it's this whole clogging of the ocean, which could represent a lot in itself. When I started to realize what
it does, correct.
There's a lot behind it. Yeah, it had a lot to it, but then I think because it requires a read up, and because it has that depth, sometimes I like it. Again, it's like the beef I have with Star Wars. Yeah. Don't tell me about, this shit happened in the comics. I need to know what happened from film to film to film.
I know, that I agree with. That pisses me off with the Star Wars fans when they try and make a movie great because something happened off screen. I hate that shit.
Yeah, it can't work. And that's what, so this is where it's like, I appreciate it, but I was like, I felt open-ended in it. That's where I say you will probably have done it more justice than I would, because I have it. That's the negative parts of it. But again, I think it was visually beautiful. The story had me at a point of wanting more. I just didn't like the payoff. That's essentially what I felt. I never.
It's not. This is interesting. A lot of Studio Ghibli films, not all, but a lot of them, I actually resonate. What you're saying resonates with me. Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, for instance, fantastic film. Payoff, questionable. Princess Mononoke, questionable. Do you know which one I think you would adore?
Was it?
And I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. No, Red Turtle's fucking superb. That's not a Miyazaki film though. That's a more recent Ghibli. But you've seen Red Turtle, haven't you? We've brought that up before.
Yeah.
Red Turtle is
superb.
It's superb film, Red Turtle. It's like an old silent movie almost, isn't it? No, the one I think you would love is My Neighbor Totoro.
I did see that, and I think it is on Netflix. I did. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's something where I was like, it's weird because it didn't turn me off. It actually made me wanted to watch more to be accept endings like that. Do you understand? It's weird. Yes. So as much as it wound me up, I'm willing to. I'm like, let me see what else this studio can deliver.
Honestly do, and it very much demands of you to leave your preconceptions of how a movie should be constructed at the door. It's very much its own animal. Mate, do you know what? You've done it justice. Well played to you. Few comments have come in, and the boss. So first off, Francis Lalonde says, agree with AJ on Spirited Away. Excellent film, but questionable horror. But to that, Francis, I'll go back to a previous comment a bit higher up that the boss says, losing parents and getting kidnapped to slave labor. Pretty scary. That's kind of what makes it horror for me. Like, you've got to always... This is the thing when I think with family friendly, it's like, as I said at the top of the show, would I show this to my daughter? Now, I have a feeling, and, my daughter's going to be a badass little Muay Thai fighter, but do I have the feeling that if you showed a 6-year-old something that was depicting her parents being taken away from her or his parents being taken away from her and then being sold into labor, I mean, that could be quite fucking unsettling for a child. That's kind of what I think. Same with Beauty and the Beast. It's not a horror, but there are elements of horror to it.
It all depends how you wish to portray it. Now, obviously, I'm breaking it down into two parts, but we talk about losing parents. Home Alone became an awesome franchise of, oh my God, how cool. So, like, it all depends. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Obviously, I'm being devil's advocate when I say that. I'm really being a dick when I say it at the same time. But it's like, it's how do you play it? Because losing the parents, I felt like now the adventure begins, as opposed to horror. Even the slave labor was like, even that I felt was more challenge than horror, if you would. But I appreciate the ghost element to it. What I thought of it, and this is so stupid, and I know it hasn't made your list because it doesn't really have the horror elements. It has horror characters in it. It was like a smarter version of Hotel Transylvania. That's what I saw when I saw this. If I'm honest, like it's like it has the ghost elements. It brings them all into one place, but a lot smarter.
You've also got to remember that this was very much a Japanese film made for a Japanese audience. It gained notoriety because of how good it was, so got brought over. But you know, the themes of social injustice, the themes of ocean destruction, given that Japan is an island nation, the themes of social greed. I'm not saying these are things that we can't relate to in the West. Shit, they're prevalent as hell where we're from. But this was very much a Japanese film critiquing Japanese deficiency. Yeah. So you have to remember, so to do so, Miyazaki brought in a lot of Japanese mythology, a lot of Japanese demons, a lot of Japanese folklore, which we may not be familiar with. So it may be like, what the fuck to us, but to them, it's like, we've gone off on a little bit of a tangent here with some of the comments, but I would like to address them because, as always, it's all about the edutainment on the show. Mixed Memorabilia says, as Martyrs has been mentioned slightly off topic, but Necromantic has to be the most messed up, disturbing film of all time. I couldn't watch it. Well, Necromantic. That sounds like my sort of film. That is being added right now.
It's added it to a list. It shouldn't go into family-friendly horror. I'm sure I'm going to be like, what the hell did I just do there? But
no, hell no.
We'll live and learn. No, I know, but I'm just...
Pedro agrees with that. Necromantic would be up there for me as well. But that's as far as difficult films to watch, not quality. Francis Lalonde picks Howl's Moving Castle as a great Studio Ghibli film. Fantastic film. I agree with you on there. Quality-wise, I'd say Salo or the 120 Days of Sodom was one of the hardest watches I've experienced, said Pedro. Francis has agreed with us on Spirited Away. And what else have we got? Pedro also, Salo was very... Mixed Memorabilia agrees. Salo was also a very disturbing film. That would qualify as horror then, says Pedro. So Salo or the 100... Let me put these in.
Just been added for me as well.
Yes, I like fucked up movies. Still encouraging you to watch Reanimator. Ha!
Bro, I knew that was going to come back up.
Ha! By the way, Mixed Memorabilia, have you seen Reanimator? Same to everyone on here, but Mixed Memorabilia, I know, is the one who comes up with these crazy suggestions for me on Twitter. Who has seen Reanimator while we're on this topic? Oh my God, Andy Hart says drinking game. I don't know Necromantic. Ha! Andy, one shot for you, sir.
Well, we got pretty far, Andy. We made it to like number 5 and /4 before you had to get a drink, so not too bad. Cool.
So that was my number 5. AJ, over to your number 4.
Right, in at number 4, slightly comedic, but it has horror tones to it. I'm talking Death Becomes Her.
I've not even heard of this.
No, you've got to be joking.
Nah, man.
Okay. Shit, me, bro. So do you know what? I used to see this shit on Sky Movie. I say this shit, I don't say it, I'm not getting away, but I used to see this all the time on Sky Movie as a kid. Huh. All the time. Bruce Willis, Goldie Hawn, and Meryl Streep. So this is why I'm like, there's no way he's not seen it. You've got Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn are two. I believe they're in the upper class. They're like socialites. Like one's a actress, the other one's a book author, but they're both after Bruce Willis's character, and they're both trying their ways to vie for his attention. And they end up drinking this potion which allows them to regain eternal youth, like maintain eternal youth. But it also makes them immortal. So what happens is while they're
there, are we? Okay, carry on.
Yeah. But what happens is that while they have these elements, I believe it's Goldie Hawn's character pushes Meryl Streep down the stairs, and you believe she's dead, and then she pops back up, and like it's her neck is turned the other way around, so it's head facing backwards and all that stuff. Now it's very cheesy, and it could have its comedic side to it. But as a kid, I also found it very freaky. I found it very freaky in that part. So yeah, maybe from an older point of view. I even had to Google it because I was like, "Oh, what age was this?" And this was when I've ended up on BBFC. I was like, "It's a 12. It works." I was kind of shaken by it. I don't know if everyone else felt that way about it, but they do have these ongoing challenges with themselves. You've got people attacking each other with different elements, because they're immortal, should I say? You start to see horrific type attacks on them. It's been a while, so I might be.
What are we doing here? Are we going Super Saiyan on each other? What's happening?
No, not Super Saiyan, but I'm talking like I'm saying stabbing someone with a fork in the hand or something. I'm
nice.
going with it off my hand, but like it may not be that. It's a bit edgy to me, but I do remember this film being like, this is kind of scary, but it's kind of cool at the same time. That's what I remember with Death Becomes Her, and that's why it's so high up in my head. It's a bit edgy. I didn't get a chance to rewatch it for this, but when I realized it worked, at first it was a 15, landed on BBFC, and realized it fits in. I was like, no, it's coming in. And that's where I'm going with it. So a bit sketchy, but you have all of these weird elements. There's a part, again, I'm going to bring up the image for you in it. Like, sorry, I was scrolling for something else. You can see there's a literal hole through Goldie Hawn's character, So
I can also see that Meryl Streep's gone full Exorcist on me.
That's what I was telling you about when she falls down the stairs.
Yeah.
Like it's all kind of weird and quirky, and
I have to cut you off quickly. Look who's here. Hey,
August. How you doing, bro? Welcome. Thank you.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I'm a bit sketchy, but it's fun, and I think it might be on Netflix at the moment. If you're up for giving it a shot.
Look, you seem to have. A lot of people seem to be happy with your selection. So Francis Lalonde says, "Lol, I was just a few minutes ago thinking about Death Becomes Her." Gavin Mann says, "Death Becomes Her. Forgot about that one. Always seem to see the cut version on TV." Pedro Sanctos, Death Becomes Her was a huge flop when released, probably why you're not familiar with it, kind of driven by special effects. Francis Lalonde says, I think you've nailed the definition of family-friendly horror, AJ. Freakiness factor.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, AJ, Pedro Sanctos says, saw Reanimator when I was around 8, loved it. Well, first off, that's too young. Francis Lalonde says, love Reanimator. And Andy Hart says, but I have seen Reanimator.
Interesting. There's a film that's mentioned in Juno that I was going to look for. It was another one of these, sounds like I can't remember what it was. It was something gore. I can't remember. It's something gore. She mentions it, and I was like, I think Jason Bateman brings it up.
Oh, yeah. When they're talking about, I actually should have paid more attention in that scene, but I was too disturbed by this old man preying on a teenage girl.
I get you. So I will eventually have seen that. I probably watched that and Reanimator in one day because they both sound like really weird films and films mentioned in films.
Reanimator is so fucked up. It's so fucked up, but it's so great.
I know I'm not going to enjoy this, but I know I'm going to.
It's great, mate. You can't not enjoy Reanimator. It's so stupidly brilliant. Anyway, my number 4. Yeah, you gave me a bit of shit for this for putting it in the thumbnail, but my number 4 is The Dark Crystal.
Can I be honest?
You've not seen it.
I hadn't seen it before, and I made sure I was going to look for it in this thing. The aesthetics I thought worked. Now maybe I was, again, I've been, I don't want to say babysitting, but babysitting the missus, nursing the missus, if you would. I was watching this and I could not get into it. I could not.
What is wrong with you?
Bro, I could not get into it. The more I watched, and I literally at one point left her and I was like, I'm just going to watch this film. And I just cut off. I don't know if the mind wasn't on it because I'm watching it and I'm hearing this story. I was like, the visuals, I can see why it would be scary. Probably I'm a bit too old now for it to be there to give me the shakes.
Yeah.
So that I appreciate. And I was like, it worked. But story-wise, I just couldn't get into it. And I was like, it can't make the list.
Bro,
I couldn't get into it.
Insane.
It's one of those
I will defend you. I will defend you in the sense that you didn't grow up with it. There's my defense for you. You have to have seen this as a kid.
I get that. I get it. And I also feel like I need to revisit it and give it a fresh shot. It's happened before. I've given a film a second shot. You've done it with Godfather. Like, it works sometimes, right? On this current first viewing, I was like, it needs to hit a certain tone for me. And I was like, Nah, sorry, it's just not working.
It's a fantasy story about friendship and two bloody rival factions that are coming together who are intrinsically linked by a crystal splitting. It's not that deep. It's fantasy. It's pure fantasy.
Yeah.
You're there to embrace the world that Jim Henson creates. But Jim Henson's such a genius, man.
That I'm not disputing. I'm
not saying you are. I'm just noting he's a genius. Also, by the way, Jim Henson fans, I really encourage you to watch it. It's on Disney. It's called Dinosaurs. You remember that show? It's so good.
Classic.
Not the mama. I love that show, man. Yeah. So it's a story about a gelfling called Jen. Doesn't have wings. Finds another gelfling, has wings. And they're essentially trying to go and restore the Dark Crystal to bring balance to their world. That's all it is. But what's freaking terrifying in it is these evil motherfuckers called the Skeksis. Wow. And you
Bro, they are freaky. They are freaky looking. I'm not disputing.
They're proper freaky. And the sounds they make, please. They're so unsettling, man. Horrible things. Andy agrees with me. The Dark Crystal terrified me as a kid.
I kept looking and I was like, it probably would have been something as a kid. That's the way I was really... And it wasn't that hard because, hey, I haven't grown up that much. But like, I was like, I need to see this from a kid point of view. And I'm looking and I'm like, it gives me the shakes. I get it from that age, but I just couldn't. I don't know. I think rewatching it is different compared to embracing it firsthand. Maybe. I don't know.
Possibly. Francis Lalonde says Dark Crystal's great, somewhat scary, but in a Muppet manner, so fits family friendly. I think so. Oh my God, we got him! Haven't seen Reanimator, guys. Mixed memorabilia. Gotcha.
Mixed memorabilia. I'm sure next week you may come back and would have seen it, but
parts 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm sure they don't even exist, but they'll find them. There should be an honorable mention to Thriller. Not a feature film, but still. Come on. We don't talk about Jackson anymore. Come on. If we're banning R. Kelly, we can't be still talking about it.
The only movies R. Kelly's done will never be mentioned on a freaking...
No, I'm just saying we don't embrace their art anymore. We don't accept them in popular culture. If we're canceling R. Kelly, I'm sorry. I love the man's music, but we have to cancel MJ. We just have to. He's a pedo. He's a freaking pedophile.
Please, I don't even... Because, we'll leave it there. I'm just going to leave it there. It's not on my list, but I get where you're going.
Okay.
So, yeah. Right.
He's a very talented pedophile, but he's a pedophile.
But mate, just leave it, please.
Why? What am I saying that's so out there?
Because basically the argument that comes out, whereas R. Kelly has been convicted, there were conflicting sides on Michael Jackson, and people pull out proof from both sides, and it could get very messy. And
another kid, I thought it was Groundhog's Day.
Again, leave it, because you could offend many people who will stick by the law and say he was not convicted, he was found innocent. There are others going to be like X, Y, and Z. It will get very messy. That's why I do not touch Michael Jackson. No, I can't.
So no Thriller then. Very good. We agree. What's your number 3?
That's what I'm saying. Just leave it, because I'm not going to open that can of worms by any means. No. I can't. Right.
Andy Hart says mixed memorabilia. I don't believe you. You've seen everything. Legitimately seems like that sometimes. Ruby Thomas says animated film called Monster House. I remember being popular. It's not on my list. It may be on AJ's.
No, it's not on my list, but I do recall seeing it when it first came out on DVD. Had quite a lot of fun with it, but just didn't make the cut. It was actually going to make the list. Didn't rewatch it, but no, it was a cool film. It is actually quite a cool film.
Pedro Sanchez says, fair enough, I get your point and won't get into that debate. I think you're a smarter man than I am, Pedro. But John Landis's work in Thriller was masterful. The full 12-minute version is great. I was not aware that John Landis directed Thriller. I'm actually going to go and rewatch it now. Fair enough. Mixed Memorabilia says, also, guys, shortly after Salo was released, director Pasolini was assassinated. Was it because of the movie or was it just circumstantial?
Yeah, that's an interesting mix.
AJ, your number 3.
Right, my number 3 was our punt from earlier. Beetlejuice. Sorry, Sugar. No, 3 was wrong. I can't count anymore. Ghostbusters is my number 3.
That's a punt.
Okay, fair play.
So my number 3 is the punt from earlier, The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's your first time seeing this, yes?
I can see why you loved it. I can see why you liked it.
Take it away.
Musicals are a funny one for me because sometimes I wonder if it needs to be a musical with certain films, and I feel like a story could be told more in word than in music, right?
No,
but it doesn't mean I didn't appreciate the songs. Must admit, it may not be most people's popular ones. My favorite ones were around the Boogeyman. I think the Boogeyman was cool. And when the 3 kids were talking about him as well, I was like, oh, I want to meet this Oogie Boogie or whatever his name is. Like, he seems kind of cool. He seemed kind of cool.
I'm the Boogeyman. Yeah, he was very cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I really, really enjoyed it. It's world building, which I really enjoyed.
So much.
You know. Like I think I brought it up once. It's the Guardians. It's not Guardians of the Galaxy, but they're Guardians of something, and it had Santa, the Easter Bunny, and this, that, and the other. So to know there's this forest which essentially has all the different celebration towns gassed me instantly. And the way there was one thing that they'd done that troubled me, right? Is Jack Skellington is walking through the woods, crosses over into Christmas Town, right? But he came out of his own town, through the woods, but opened the door to go into Christmas Town. I was like, well, that was a slight plot line.
Well, maybe when you're in Christmas Town, you walk through the woods and open the door to get into Halloween Town.
But everyone just seems to walk out of their woods. It just seemed a bit like, oh, that was a bit wrong. But apart from that, I loved the way it was done. And it was the innocence of trying to make something beautiful, but your world only permits you to do one characteristic. I found it really sweet. I really was touched by this film in a way that I was like, yeah, this is actually really nice. This is cool. It's the fact that it shouldn't be horror side. Like, we know that he's done well, so you understand that it's not so much a jump scare, but you can appreciate the jump scare for those living in that world, which makes it slightly horror. And
there's some pretty graphical imagery.
It has some parts where you're like, ooh, like, they're opening a present and seeing a head. I was like, whoa, we took it there. We actually took it to an actual decapitated head. Like, okay, cool. But
I just love the way he hard sells the whole of Halloween Town on the idea of Christmas.
Yeah,
where he says and they call him Santa Claus. I was like, nice, well played.
Yeah, I thought it was. It's one of those things that I also, obviously it couldn't, because you can't have it because he's understood his lesson essentially by the end of the film. But it was like, one, I thought maybe Santa would have taken him on it. Anyway, I won't get into it, but there were some endings, and I was like, maybe there was a sequel and we see him visit another town. But I was like, but no, he's appreciated what's there. I might have wanted to see a bit more of a visit of other towns, but I really, really liked the way they played it. I thought, yeah, this is all kinds of cool. I thought it was a really good movie. I'm happy I've seen it.
I love it, and I love the idea that they've managed to capture with the seasons this guy who's essentially the leader. He's the one who everyone looks up to, but he's having not a crisis of identity, but a crisis of confidence. Like, he wants more from life. He's jaded. He's not bitter, but he's jaded. He's sour. He's bored, and then he discovers this thing which he shouldn't love, and it's very much the movie is just about don't try and be anyone else than yourself.
Yeah.
Don't try and fill Santa's shoes. Don't try and fill anyone's shoes. Be you. Be the best you that you can be. And I think that's such a great message to send to kids. Be the best you that you can be.
Yeah, that's another thing I agree with. No, it was all kinds of cool.
Few of Candy Heart. I generally hate musicals, but The Nightmare Before Christmas is one of 2 on my list this week. Well, Andy, you're going to hate our top 10 next week.
Yeah.
And Mixed Memory release. No, sorry, that's the private thing they've got going on in the chat. I'll let them carry on with that. Where is it gone? Pedro Sanctos says, it's dated and there are some issues, but I love it. It's definitely a family-friendly film, 100%. And then there's the thing about the 7 faces they've got going on in the chat. That's a discussion for them. We've got a podcast to do. Oh, hang on. Frank Torres has come in and said the advert for Nightmare with the kid pulling their head out of the box threw a lot of parents off because it was animated. Yeah, family-friendly horror.
There you go.
AJ, that was my
So-
number 3. So your number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 was the punk from earlier. Don't know how I made that mistake earlier. I'm talking Beetlejuice.
Wow, that high.
Bro, I've had a lot of fun with Beetlejuice, man. I shouldn't say fun when it comes to it, but again, Beetlejuice and Death Becomes Her are 2 films that I remember just seeing a lot as a kid. They were just forever on. They were just forever on Sky Movies, and I just appreciate the element of it. And I found him. It essentially was a horror town. You know, it's the fact that you've had this horror house, this haunted house. He brings them into his village. I just found it. You know, you've got that small part where it's the toy world and everyone's entered it, and it just became something. I just thought, this is amazing. And do you know the funniest bit? For all my years of watching Beetlejuice, it was only in the past 5 to 10 years I realized it was Michael Keaton. He was just Beetlejuice. Like, I didn't even know the actor behind it. That's what I think was absolutely nuts behind it. But it's all the elements of scare that comes in it, like the monsters, the ghosts, the death, the haunting, the
sandworms.
hypnotizing.
Come on, the sandworms are horrible.
The sandworms. This is what I'm saying. When I said monsters, these are coming in the parts that you get. It's just that you've got all these different elements of horror just thrown at you as a kid, and you're like, you can watch it, you embrace it, but it has you on edge. Like, even the bad guy / hero is, you like him, but he scares you. Like, I remember that you were just uncomfortable
Bad
around
guy
Beetlejuice.
/ hero. You think
But he is, isn't
Beetlejuice
he?
is the hero?
So who would you? Where would you break? I mean, okay, it's named.
I
after
mean,
him,
he's
okay,
the villain. He's 100% the villain. Sorry,
Yeah.
have we watched a different film? How is
No.
Beetlejuice the hero?
I'm going back. It's been a while, but I'm like, okay, but okay, yeah, he is, because it's the parents who. Yeah, I remember that. Gina. Yeah, he is, but he still has a way of convincing you, isn't it? Okay, which we would say is the ground basis of a good villain. You know, there's a part where the rider has.
You're rusty. There is no convincing.
No, I'm saying, isn't there a part where him and Winona Ryder get on quite well? This is the part I'm trying to, like, she didn't want to.
No.
I'm rusty as fuck. I'm rusty as fuck.
Winona Ryder's like underage, and he tries looping her into an underage marriage. He goes full R. Kelly on her.
Oh, for God, if you stop bringing out these artists. But yes, no, I do remember that part where he captures her. Yeah. No, he is, pure villain. As you said, that part, I remember the marriage part. But yeah, I just remember this film as being freaky. But freaky but cool. Like, he's wrong. Yes, now that you brought that part, he was wrong. But he made you laugh along the way, but he was scary at the same time. Like, it was weird. It was weird.
It's proper weird. Do you know, the reason I put it a bit lower, because I do love it, but the reason I put it a bit lower is because there are some parts where I thought, this is a bit risque. Like, he actually says fuck at one point. There's one F-bomb in the entire film. And
again,
I was like, yo.
I thought it was a 15. I wasn't sure, but yeah, it's down as a 12 now. So I'm like,
down as a 12 now. You know, he full on fondles Gina Davis's hoo-ha when he's got his arm around Alec Baldwin, who, my God, has he aged? Not badly. It's just, oh my God, Father Time, you cunt. Because Alec Baldwin is like skinny and young in this. And I was like, wow. Like, wow. He's got his hand around Alec Baldwin and he's giving Gina Davis a little over-the-dress finger blast in the background. I'm like, man's wife is right to what?
But do you know what? There's a scene in the film that you punted me on.
Francis Lalondo's nice fucking model. Exactly.
There was a scene in okay, you don't see this, but in the film we punted on earlier, even that had a bit. I was like, whoa, you actually showed that in a kids' film? But we'll bring it up after when we get to that film. But I was like, interesting when I rewatched it. So yeah, I think the 90s was just that bit more risque. Let's be honest, it just was. Okay, swear words should never be permitted for kids.
Right.
Yeah. That part is
very risque, but it does tread that line just enough where I was like, you qualify. Few questions have come in. Would Batman Returns qualify for you guys? No, because I actually think Batman Returns is a 15.
I think it's a 12.
I think it's
a 12. I think it's a 12 because I remember not being able to see it. I had to go and see Beethoven, and some people were just that. I think I was like 11 when it came, or some shit like that. So some people got to see Batman Returns, and I had to go to Beethoven. But yeah, I contemplated that list. I contemplated putting Batman on the list.
Andy Hart says the best Batman. I do not agree, although I do like it. Mixed Memorabilia says Batman Returns crossed my mind as well. Frank Torres says Winona Ryder was the hero in Beetlejuice. Agreed.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit.
But in Beetlejuice, the animated series, he is the hero. That is true, yes. And Francis Lalonde says Beetlejuice walks that line, keeping kids on edge without overt horror. Plus, such a fun film for adults. Indeed. And then we've got Andy Hart saying, yes, Keaton and Ryder get on well to begin with, a bit like De Niro and Juliette Lewis in Cape Fear. Ha! Lol.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be a great way to remind me. Yeah.
It's so fucked up, that film, isn't it? Do you know actually one thing about rewatching Beetlejuice that I really, really appreciated was how many actors who were kind of big in one or two movies, not even big, but who were just there, show up in this movie. For instance, Kevin McAllister's mum is in this.
I know.
You've got that.
I've never connected the two.
Demolition Man, right? Sly
Yeah.
Stallone. Do you remember I'm Associate Bob? You know,
Yeah.
Chubby Bob. He's in this.
I know.
And then do you remember the granny from Mars Attacks?
That lady, I can't remember. That one is.
She's in this. And I was like, there's like a who's not who.
Yeah. Not A-listers, but those that middle ground of recognizable faces. Yeah. Right. You're number 2, sir.
I brought this up earlier. My number 2, an animation that scared the fuck out of me when I was a child. And bro, it's on Disney Plus. It's only about 33 minutes long, so it's a short, if you will. I don't know how they got away with making this. It still scares me. Scares me is a big word because I'm a man. I'm an adult now, but
I'm a daddy now, God.
I'm a daddy now. It's still unsettling. The Adventures of Ichabod Crane, also known as The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh.
This film, man, it's such an interesting take on Washington Irving's Sleepy Hollow book. Because it's always somber. From the get-go, it's somber. You know, who's the bloody author? Bing. What? Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby is the narrator throughout the whole thing. And the first sort of 2/3 of this very short movie are about Ichabod Crane being this cultured New Yorker who comes to this little sleepy town called Sleepy Hollow. And he's a bit of a, he knows his way around, not only the town and around how to get out of fights, but also around women and also about who to discipline in the class versus who not to discipline in the class, so that he gets invited over, gets to both have some pulled pork and then pork the mothers, right? And it's all kind of insinuated. Like, adults will get it when they watch it. Kids will just be like, oh, look, he's going over to someone's house for dinner. It's like, it's not all he's going over for.
He's going for some pie.
Yeah, so exactly. He's going over some poontang pie. So as an adult, you see all that's going on, right? And then, of course, enter Katrina Van Tassel, this beautiful woman that every single man in the town is after. And Ichabod, because he's a wily, although weird-looking old guy, he gets into her affections. He takes her to the dance. He's managing to woo her ahead of the big rival, Brom Bones, right? But then Bron, who's been completely one-upped by Ichabod Crane for the whole entire story, sees him gathering all the food at dinner and then sees him spill the salt and throw it over his shoulder. And he's like, I forgot that about you. And Bing Crosby, the narrator perfectly says, for Bron knew there was no one more superstitious than the schoolteacher Ichabod Crane. And then it breaks into this, it's so chilling. It's superb exposition song about the legend of the Headless Horseman. This is coming up to the end of the film, yeah? So Ichabod sitting next to beautiful Katrina Van Tassel. they've essentially all been invited on Halloween to tell ghost stories at this dance, right? The dancers over there eating, and Bron breaks out into this song with a tip tip and a clippity clop. He's out looking for a head to chop. And there's this whole story about the Headless Horseman, about how he rides every Halloween. And in the space of 2 minutes, they build up this terrifying legend of the Headless Horseman. And the line that sends shivers down Ichabod's spine is, "So when you're riding home tonight, make for the bridge with all your might. He'll be waiting in the hollow there. The Headless Horseman rides again." And you've got now then it cuts to the party's finished. Ichabod, this is where the movie's so clever. For adults, we'll get this. He's made a dick of himself in front of Katrina because of his superstition. You know, he's been winning her for the whole movie. All of a sudden, he's riding home alone at night. Kids won't think second about that. Adults will get that. Yo, he's just made a dick of himself at the party and he's been pushed away. So now he's going home cold turkey. No pussy for you tonight. So he's riding home, and the brilliant narration from Bing Crosby. Every step the school teacher took inside of the terrifying forest seemed to swallow Ichabod more and more. And then comes in the brilliant Disney soundtrack where you just get frogs going, Ichabod, Ichabod. And there's all these things that perfectly convey how the school teacher's mind is playing tricks on him. And, you know, there's reeds bashing on a trunk going, so he thinks he's the Headless Horseman there, right? But it's not. He sees their reed, starts laughing, and then you see the Headless Horseman. And he's terrifying. He's horrible. And he breaks into a full chase, chases the schoolmaster throughout the forest. Now, the trick with the Headless Horseman is there's a specific bridge he can't cross. Bron explains it in the song. Once you cross that bridge, my friend, the ghoul's power is over. His power ends, right? But as Ichabod's crossing, I mean, the Headless Horseman kills him. There's a full-on death in this. No, I mean, it's the story of Sleepy Hollow. If you know it, you know it, right? So all they find the next morning is the schoolmaster's hat and a smashed pumpkin. And some people say that the schoolmaster left Sleepy Hollow and went and started a peaceful life elsewhere. But the villagers knew that he'd been spirited away by the Headless Horseman. How the fuck they thought this was appropriate for children? It's so scary. But why is it family friendly? It's an animation. It's an animation.
Oh, that doesn't.
Watch the movie, you'll see. They've done it in a way that it just.
No, I get that. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Just say it's family friendly. Don't say because it's animation, bro. We have an entire anime collection that is not made for kids. Like that doesn't. No.
Fine. It's definitely family friendly, and it's one I think that people do not give enough credit to. I think it is a hidden gem amongst Disney's catalog. Certainly the most adult thing they've ever done, and I stand by that.
Cool.
Go and watch it tonight, and come back and tell me what you think next week. It's 30 minutes.
30 minutes. I've got time for. That will be my tube ride tomorrow. I'll do that.
Pedro Sanctos says Pinocchio had genuinely scary moments. The Island, yeah, right. Pleasure Island, that was a good one. And Francis Leon says Ichabod. Disney meshes the audio effects perfectly in sync with the animation. Yes, the audio in this film is sensational. The Johnny Depp Sleepy Hollow just tweet. Fuck off. No,
I actually believe it. If Beauty and the Beast is 30 years old, that makes perfect sense.
Andy Hart says, as we are getting to the business end of the list, it won't make the grade, but an honorable mention for a couple of years ago, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Haven't seen that, Andy. Tucky says, The Witches. You're a bit late to the party, Tucky. That was AJ's number 10, I believe.
Yeah. What was that one from Andy? Scary
Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Cool.
And Francis Lalonde says, plus with Ichabod definitely has a satisfying ending for both kids and adults, most definitely. Riri says, it's all subjective, might be a weird one, but Edward Scissorhands had me creeped out as a child. I see that. I definitely see that.
I actually thought it was something that was older and scarier because I never saw it until I was older. And when I did, I was like, oh, it's actually not meant to be that scary. But I actually thought it was meant to be a horror. Like, I didn't even approach Edward Scissorhands as a kid.
Mm. And Francis Lalonde knows what I'm talking about. Ichabod getting cock blocked. Yeah, big time. Big time. He got song cock blocks. Right, AJ, what's your worst? By the way, please go and watch The Adventures of Ichabod Crane. 30 minutes.
I will do.
It's great.
I will do. I think my worst is a poor man's version of what was my number one. I feel that it had all the blueprints of being perfect without being related to my number one. And it failed. There was a catalogue of books, a catalogue of TV series, yet it failed miserably. I am talking Goosebumps.
Oh, mate, fantastic. My worst as well.
Yeah, I was so let down by this.
Let down.
I had a feeling it couldn't hit the spot. As I said, it reminded me a lot of my number one. I was like, maybe it will deliver that beat. And coincidentally, Jack Black was in a sequel. And I was like, that didn't go to plan. So where would this go? And I remember being in the cinema watching it. I was like, that is not what you've just done with Goosebumps. And as I said,
it's awful, isn't
so
it?
much source material to work with. Like, I remember Nickelodeon as a kid. You had Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps. Episodes after episodes after episodes are there.
And they were actually quite good. A bit B-movie, but they were quite good. And they were at least true to the source material.
Yeah. Again, we're walking on the family-friendly horror. I just thought it felt like Toy Soldiers gone wrong, if I'm honest. That's what I felt like when I watched this. It just was like, really? Oh, okay. I was disappointed as hell with Goosebumps.
I can't add much more to that. I think the casting of Jack Black, who I don't have a particular issue with, I know some people do, he's never really bothered me. I actually think he's quite talented on his day when he wants to be. When he makes an effort, he's good. I think he was poorly cast as R.L. Stine. I didn't actually like the story that, we're actually going to focus on the author and it's the author's books that come to life. That was stupid. You could have literally just picked a Goosebumps story and just rolled with it. And no, what they wanted to do was they wanted to bring in R.L. Stine and they wanted to make a franchise. They had to make a franchise out of it. And they didn't go about it the right way. Surely the right way to do this would have been to just go book by book by book. Each Goosebumps story is a new book.
And the sad thing is, had they done that, right, you could have then realized that these are all written by a certain individual and then bring this on. And each time each of those characters came out, it would have put a bit more of a shit scare into you, because after 12 or so films, which would have been a franchise, then having to find out this man created number one, and oh my god, monster from number 1 and monster from number 6 are all born in the same world. Like, people are losing their shit right now for No Way Home because the villains from all these different films are reappearing.
Yeah, bingo.
Yeah,
they went about it completely the wrong way. It is what it is. Gavin Mann says there was a TV version of Goosebumps I remember watching when I was younger. Might have been on the BBC. No, Nickelodeon. I remember watching it too, Gavin Mann. Taki says, admittedly, only seen Goosebumps once in the cinema, but I recall liking it enough. Interesting idea having characters coming out of the books, though it was fairly harmless. Completely harmless. And it lacked in the scares.
That was the issue. The story, had it not been had you taken that story and not made it Goosebumps, it would have actually been pretty cool.
It just would have been creepy Jumanji.
This is
essentially what it is. Right, what's your number one then, mate?
You just called it Jumanji.
Ha!
You literally said creepy Jumanji. That's what I was like. I didn't want to touch on it too much because Jumanji.
I mean, we've always said this, haven't we? I forgot about it. Jumanji is a children's horror, essentially.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is, when I work with half of the other things, you'll talk about monsters, you'll talk about your vampires, your ghouls, and XYZ. Jumanji doesn't do that. Jumanji, apart from the plant, essentially, which again can happen, but it's extravagant. Jumanji works on the real. Okay, yes, a kid turned into a monkey.
Spiders.
But giant spiders. But you get what I'm saying? We're talking spiders. We're talking lions. We're talking alligators. We're talking swamps. It just brings it into it brings a reality from elsewhere into into suburbia, if you would.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what makes it scary. It's not that, oh, here comes the ghost and here comes, the headless horse riders. I'm not knocking any of these other films when I say this, It's not, oh, here comes Dracula, here comes the mummy. No. It's the stuff that can legit put the shits in you. Yes, the spiders were too big. But when you hear the story of what the spider is, to be fair, I don't know how fake it is, because I've heard Australia
Big
has
man.
some.
The biggest spider in the world is the Goliath bird eating
But you
spider.
get what I'm trying to say. But what I'm saying is the size is wrong, but what it can do, I don't discount certain spiders can do, is what I'm getting at.
Sure.
Paralysis and all of that. And this is where I was like, as much as it was an adventure movie, as much as it had, its comedic part, it's a scary film. It builds its tension. Even the huntsman in the character of your dad, who you've had a troubled relationship with,
Bang.
All sorts of it.
You've just hit on my favorite part of the movie. Casting Pete Postlethwaite as both the father when he's a child, but also as the hunter, screaming things afterwards, come back here and fight me like a man. This lingering spirit of his, emotionally abusive father haunted him throughout his whole life and manifested itself in the jungle. Fucking genius. Brilliant.
Yeah. And the roll of the dice each time it's not like Snakes and Ladders, where sometimes you roll the dice and it's the ladder, next time it's the snake. Like, most times it lands, you're like, oh god, what comes next? Like, you are genuinely shit scared when it comes to Jumanji. Each time there's a roll of the dice, and that's what I think is quite amazing with it. And that's why I thought, you know what, we're going to talk family friendly horror, Jumanji takes the spot for me.
And it's got Robin Williams, Bonnie Hunt, a very young Kirsten Dunst, and David Alan Grier.
Yes, indeed. And David Postlethwaite, as you just mentioned. But yes, that was that's my number one. And over to you, sir.
Well, just a few comments have come in. Tucky says, yeah, Jumanji is great. Not sure, not just a scary movie, which it is, particularly The Hunter, but it also has heart. The father-son relationship, really well done. The father was played by sorry, Tucky, you're quite right. Jonathan Hyde, not Pete Postlethwaite. You are absolutely right on that. My bad. Gavin Mann says, I recognized his ad playing the hunter when I first saw Jumanji, but never understood this until I was older. Mixed Memorabilia says, Jumanji is an interesting choice. Surprised Arachnophobia hasn't made your list still. Yeah, that's not family friendly.
I never touched that film with a barge pole, if I'm honest with you.
That's just a horror. Man, I've got arachnophobia. I ain't watching that film. So, Pedro Sanchez. So, Ghostbusters didn't make AJ's list. Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Fraser's wife also makes an appearance. There you go for a bit of.
Maris. I can't remember. Yeah. She's
And Andy Hart says, never thought of Jumanji. It would have made my list, but not changing now. That's a very good segue, actually, just before I reveal my number one. Everyone in the chat now, please, could you give us your 109876543221 in order with numbers, please? Your top 10 family-friendly horror movies, and then we will read them out. Fire away. Tucky says, Pete Postlethwaite would have nailed it too, to be fair, and Riri Thomas says, King Kong. So sad. It's so sad. King Kong. It always makes me sad, that movie. All right. Well, my number one, look, no surprise. It was the punt from earlier. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. Obviously, it's Ghostbusters. It can only be Ghostbusters.
Bro, do you know what? Again, as I said, rewatched it with the missus. Yeah. Now, I sometimes know there's a certain energy in the room that might make you not enjoy stuff as much. I still liked it, but I was like,
be careful.
It's not as great as I remember. That's what hit me.
You're wrong. That's your missus talking, not you. Come back to the light, AJ. Come back to the light.
Honestly, I was like, Like,
no.
I felt, no, hear me on this. I just felt they kind of, we touched on the subject of the ghost. We had the initial element of the ghost, but it felt I felt it had more depth before when I was younger. I don't know why, but I just felt it did. I felt like we just had this parade, this jump cut, this cut scene of all the different ghosts, and then obviously you had your main one.
Yeah, you get a montage, sure.
Yeah, then you had your main villain, and I was like, okay, and that was all of 5 to 10 minutes. I just felt like, I remember it differently. I'm not saying it's shit, but I was like, I remember this differently. And then a lot of my stuff as well is, I go back to thoughts. If I ever say Ghostbusters, my mind does say animation more than it says the film.
Sorry, you've lost me. Insanity. This movie, for such a short runtime, has got so much content in it. It's ridiculous. Just think about all the plot points, the big beats that this film hits throughout the film, right? You've got the three of them at the beginning going through the library and doing paranormal studies. Then you got the three of them actually setting up the Ghostbusters. You've got Ernie Hudson coming to join them. You've got all of that relationship going on with Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis. You've got Rick Moranis being turned evil. You've got Sigourney Weaver being turned into Zool. There is no Dana, only Zool. You've got the whole relationship development between Bill Murray and Dana. Then you've got them attacking Slimer. Then, to your credit, they do have the montage. But then you've got that whole thing with what's his face, Dick from the city, who tries
Dickless, don't call him Dick, he was Dickless. Yeah. But yeah, like
very good.
Bro, I get it.
Who unleashes the ghost. Then you've got the big confrontation with Zool at the end. Then you got the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Like, it's a lot of content for a short period of time.
Even that, again, like I remember, it was like Stay Puft was like lit up. Then it was like, oh, this is what we need to do. And I was like, again, maybe it needed more depth for it. This is what I'm saying. It hit the points that I remember. I was like, oh, there wasn't more depth to it. It was literally the parts I remember. It's weird, but it was just true. It just kind of like, you're cool, but not as cool as what I first remember it to be. Like it's weird, but it was. And that's just where I was like, again, bro, you summed it up. There is nothing more to hit on the film, but I was like, we saw how they discovered ghosts, how they're going to challenge it. It was like, okay, a slight touch of trial and error, but it was like, okay, we've developed it, we've caught them, we've hired someone. The county don't believe in it, even down to the point of people don't want to believe in ghosts. And it's like, oh, we've captured one ghost. The phone lines don't stop ringing. I was like, okay, well, either you believe in ghosts or you don't, people. Like, I can't not believe in ghosts. Oh, they caught one. Oh, now I'm going to call the Ghostbusters because I believe in ghosts. It just felt a bit weird. Like, when I watched it, I was like, yeah. Again, don't hate it just the way I thought about it. It's my number 3. I don't hate it. But it just was, it couldn't make number 1. I thought it was going to be. And the more I thought of it, I was like, no, you're not.
I think you're insane. I love your Jumanji pick, but I think you're painting Ghostbusters with such an unfair brush. It's crazy. And
sometimes the clash of nostalgia can fuck you up.
Nah, you're wrong, mate. Sorry. I've rewatched Ghostbusters for this.
No, I'm talking for me. Like the way I remembered it compared to what I'm watching, bro. I'm not going to put it in Casper territory, but I'm just like, oh, okay, it's not what I thought. And then obviously it's the CG has been tough on it as well. Like,
sure, yes, sure. Especially the death dogs there.
Bro,
they look so bad now. They look so bad now.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me happy to see that they're supposed to be back for Ghostbusters Afterlife. I was like, oh, good. We get a modern death dog. Very good.
We're gonna redeem ourselves.
There's nothing to redeem. It's just age.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna like polish it up. We're gonna get a polishing. It's a bit like Crash Bandicoot and like the remake.
Yeah, right. Ghostbusters always makes me sad though, because it just reminds me how fucking good Rick Moranis is, and I felt that rewatching it. I just love Rick Moranis because he quit acting, obviously, because don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure his wife died and he chose to quit acting to go and look after his daughter. He's a great. Not only is he fucking great actor, he's a great human, and I respect you for life for that, Rick. But I miss you so much. I miss you so much.
Indeed.
Funnily enough, one I'm surprised wasn't on your list, AJ, is Return to Oz.
Return to Oz. Do you know if I've watched it? I've seen Wizard of Oz. I've seen Wizard of Oz, and I've seen Oz the Great and Powerful. I've not seen Return to Oz.
Fair enough. Let's just go through a few comments quickly. Francis Lalonde has gone 10, 13 Ghosts, the original, 9 Albert and Costello meet Frankenstein. Pedro Santos has cut in and given his top 10, 10 The Dark Crystal, 9 Legend, 8 Coco, 7 Nightmare Before Christmas, 6 E.T., 5 Labyrinth is a great shout, 4 Beetlejuice, 3 Spirited Away, 2 Ghostbusters, 1 Gremlins. Oh, I like the love for the Gremlins. Andy Hart says 10 The Witches, 9 The Nightmare Before Christmas, 9 The Wizard of Oz. I'm going to say 8 The Wizard of Oz, 7 Poltergeist, 6 Gremlins, 5 Frankenstein, 4 King Kong, 3 The Others, 2 Jaws. Jaws is not a family-friendly horror. 1 Ghostbusters. Man literally gets bitten in half. But I respect your choices, Andy. Pedro Sanctos, I still remember my first time in New York City. I was 10. I was just looking around and having flashbacks to Ghostbusters moments in it. Actually, I might share these next time. What I did when I went to New York, I think
I've
Nathan,
seen it. Yeah, we're cool.
So I went to all the famous New York film sites and I super transposed the picture that I took and I transposed the image of the movie over it. I might bring them up on next week's top 10 just because I like you all to see that. It was a lot of fun doing that. Tucky says the chair scene with Sigourney Weaver always scared me when I was younger. Yeah, it did. Frank Torres is top 5. Nightmare on Elm Street, 4 Beetlejuice, 3 The Witches, 2 Ghostbusters, 1 Gremlins. A lot of love for Gremlins. I like it. AJ, I think we might have to, this might need to be in consideration. Gavin Mann says, first live pod. Yes, Gavin. Then welcome and thank you for joining us. I hope it won't be your last. No list from me. We're throwing Hocus Pocus to the mix. There's a sequel to Hocus Pocus being made?
I think it's a remake as opposed... No, it's a sequel. I have heard of the sequel. Hocus Pocus very nearly made the list. It was actually on the list till I found out Beetlejuice and Death Becomes Her are allowed to make the list.
It was a toss-up between Hocus Pocus and Casper, to be honest. And Casper, for nostalgia, just made it on. Francis Lalonde then finishes their list and says, The Nightmare Before Christmas at 8, 7, The Addams Family, 6, Ichabod, last minute ad. Thank you, Francis, respect. 5, Gremlins, 4, Beetlejuice, 3, Jumanji, 2, The Dark Crystal, and 1, Ghostbusters. Pedro Sanctos says, plus Ghostbusters has one of the greatest thank you. Has one of the greatest Rick Moranis characters, and that's saying a lot. Andy Hart said, Gavin Mann says, Andy Hart, I went with Return to Oz, scary and creepy. And Pedro Sanctos says, hope all Rick Moranis fans have seen Streets of Fire. Yes, fantastic. Francis Lalonde agrees. Labyrinth, nice call. Mixed Memorabilia says Gremlins has to be in the top 4. I think it might. And Pedro Sanctos, there's an Instagram account that does that with film locations. It's pretty cool. The juxtaposition of photos. I'll check that out. Thank you for the
I have seen them. Yeah, I have seen that page. Funny enough, I saw it after you done yours, but yeah, it's cool. Just one thing, I want to put it out there just very quickly.
Very quickly.
Do you know the sequel, the series of Dark Crystal was actually meant to be the sequel to Labyrinth, but there's a slight connection between the two there.
I did know that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Rushmore time.
So, Rushmore time, my friend.
Joint both number ones. Happy for that?
Ghostbusters and Jumanji?
Yep.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't see why not. No objection on my part. I feel Gremlins should be in there, given the way people are talking about it.
I don't mind adding it. I just wish I'd seen it, but I know it's one of the all-time classics. I don't have a beef with it.
It really is. Just to answer Pedro Sanctos' questions there, why did neither of you have Labyrinth? Curious.
So I've not seen it.
Well, I've seen it. Here's a disclaimer, Pedro. I'm not the biggest Labyrinth fan. I respect it, but I don't love it.
So I'll be honest. I when I found out about it, like it kind of crossed my mind. I downloaded it, so it's on my phone through Netflix, not illegally, but I say that. And work was just too busy, so I didn't get to finish it. And I just didn't have time to really watch it. So I was downloading for the journey, but I didn't have time to watch it. And
the boss says, did anyone say The Neverending Story? Here's the thing. The Neverending Story, I wanted to rewatch for this list. I couldn't put it because my memory of it wasn't...
more adventure than horror. Thin line, I know. Especially if I put Jumanji in at number 1. But
Riri Thomas is saying Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Jumanji, and Beetlejuice as a Rushmore would be close. I think that's quite fair.
I was down with that. And there's only one other that I'm looking at that hit me. And you could say yes or no. I'll let you pick.
Go on.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
That was the other one I was thinking of. So the 4th spot, would it be taken up by Beetlejuice or The Nightmare Before Christmas? My heart says The Nightmare Before Christmas. My head says Beetlejuice for the poll. What do you guys think? Help me out in the comments here. What should make up the final spot of our Rushmore? The Nightmare Before Christmas or Beetlejuice? Wait a few minutes. Just let me know. In the meantime, if you are watching us live and if you happen to not always be able to catch us live, you can actually download an
If you
audio
watch it.
version of the
Or
movie.
just rewatch the episode, but yes, you can.
You
This
can
was
rewatch the
next part.
episode, but you can also find the movie Mount Rushmore on all podcast platforms, which are
Spotify,
AJ,
iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Deezer, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, TuneIn, Stitcher, GeoSavin, and all you have to do is search for the movie Mount Rushmore. Don't know
So
why I
it
made it
seems
sound horrific.
everyone, Pedro Santos, Francis Lalonde, and Gavin Mann, Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice it is. I'm not even opposed to that.
Neither am I. I think that's pretty easy peasy, to be honest. I think that's a really good Rushmore.
I mean, I'm cool with it. There's a part of me that just thinks like we've just gone full live action. There was no like animation in a family friendly, but hey,
I would love to put the Adventures of Ichabod Crane in there, but it will get decimated.
yeah, it's just Nightmare Before Christmas kind of toyed with, but
Andy
I'm not
Hart
gonna
says, I would go Nightmare, but both are good in the absence of Jaws. Andy, embrace your inner Elsa and let it go.
That's the best way to word that. Okay, guys. Right, Nico.
Oh, shit. Pedro Santos says, Nightmare over Jumanji. It would be interesting to have those two against each other. They might cancel each other out. I think we're good with what we have, AJ.
Yeah, I can't do that to Jumanji.
No.
I know you can't. I know you can't more than I can't. I know your love for Robin Williams.
You know,
right.
My love
okay.
for Robin Williams.
And it's plus this one that's on my list, one that's not on your list, plus 2 joints. I'm really cool with that. Right.
Gavin Mann fell into the trap of saying Beetlejuice 3 times. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the official movie Mount Rushmore of family-friendly horror movies in no particular order is
Jumanji.
Our second entry is
Gremlins.
Our third entry is
Beetlejuice.
Our final entry into the top movie Mount Rushmore of family-friendly horror movies is...
Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! Had to put it last. It was in honor of Afterlife, which we are still both yet to see. Right, okay, guys.
By the way, sorry, that's a really good point Frank Torres has just made. On Twitter, I would suggest putting 95 next to Jumanji.
Yes,
Great point, Frank.
Yes.
Thank you. That will be going on. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. That's a damn sure. Right.
And the boss says, did you know Indiana Jones Temple of Doom is rated PG? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I never thought it was that bad. Gavin Mann says, have you done top Robin Williams films? Yeah. But on the old version of the podcast, really, really old, so it can't be found anymore. I think it might be time for a trip down memory lane.
Well, it's on audio version. It's on audio. It's on a pod version. Like you'd have to go to like season 2 or something. Scroll down. It's there.
Is it there since we've relaunched?
We've done it in audio. I'm sure we've done it in audio.
Yeah. It's available as audio only, Gavin, man. But we could do a video version of it if you want. I can talk Robin Williams for days. So happy with that. And Riri Thomas says, what is next week's top 10? Great video as usual. Well, next week's top 10 is going to make Andy Hart so very happy because next week's top 10 in, Rent. The Steven Spielberg remake of Rent is about to come out. So,
no.
Is it not Spielberg?
West Side Story,
even. I don't know why I said Rent. West Side Story. Thank you, AJ. The West Side Story remake from Steven Spielberg is about to come out. So in honor of that, we thought we would do the top 10 musicals. And I don't want to hear people say, I don't like musicals. There are very, very good musicals. Don't be put off by the fact that it's all singing and dancing.
Sometimes it's not even all dancing, but hey.
Pedro Santos says, what was the Robin Williams Mount Rushmore for? Oh, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Go back and check, dude. Sorry.
Could not tell you off the top of my head. Francis Lawrence says, by the way, wasn't ready for personal top 10. We'll be ready next time. Francis, be ready. I'll make sure I at you again for the next episode. And AJ, let's go.
Right, okay,
Bring
guys,
on the last part of the show.
Nico did mention getting obliterated in the poll. Why? Because we, the Silver Screen Dudes, have had the challenge to pick the 4 must-see movies of top 4 family-friendly horror movies. Now the challenge is over to you guys, the screeners. Heading over to Twitter at Movie MT Rushmore, but more importantly at We Love Movies, movie polls for you. Big shout out to JT, the man there, who we will be retweeting. Essentially, We've picked the top 4. You have the challenge to crown El Capitan, El Numero Uno, the best of the best of the best. And
Sir!
to quote Highlander, in the end, there can be only one. I shit myself, especially every time that Andy's on, but it's what it is because I used to say it wrong. So, guys, all you have to do is head on over to either of those 2 Twitter handles at Movie MT Rushmore or We Love Movies at We Love Movies Movie Polls for you. That's the group that we keep shouting out. So, again, you will be able to count your vote for Jumanji, Ghostbusters, Gremlins, or Beetlejuice. Last week, our topic was...
Just before we get there, I want to answer these questions quickly. Pedro Sanctos says, Phantom of the Paradise all the way, greatest musical ever. Well, I know what I'm going to watch tonight then. Frank Torres says, question in advance, will Hamilton qualify? I don't know because it's a stage play.
It's kind of difficult.
I'm going to say no, but I'll be fine if AJ wants to put it on. Mixed Memorabilia says An American in Paris is a great musical. Yeah, I don't know if it's the Gene Kelly that I would pick, but it's fucking great. My list is going to be as hard as you pair doing zombies. Ha, lol, indeed. Right, sorry, to answer your question here, Jay. Last week, our topic was the best movie featuring pregnancy.
Yep, and our contenders were?
Our contenders were Rosemary's Baby, Juno, 9 Months, and A Quiet Place. We had 373 votes. Andy Hart says, Juno was my favorite film of 2007. After numerous rewatches of both movies, I now prefer No Country for Old Men, but Juno is still great and got my vote. Pedro Sanctos replied to that, There Will Be Blood was, in my opinion, one of the greatest films of that decade, and that Palme d'Or winner of that year, 2007, 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, was a harsh, brilliant take on pregnancy. Chris Trengrove has shared a image of 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, so agreeing with Pedro. Andy Hart then says, Predestination came up in the episode. Excellent movie. The first time I had seen The Great Sarah Snook, available on Amazon free to subscribers. Paul Sakuri says, A Quiet Place from those options, although Fargo and Kill Bill are my personal favorites. They did come up. Ali Junaid says, Juno. Verbo Nor Carne says, Junior. Come on. The greatest pregnancy movie. Come on. Remy Deshine says, why do I keep seeing Rosemary's Baby on a few polls? It's going to be hard to pick anything else every time. So there's JT's obviously been doing Rosemary's Baby on a few of his other polls. So I actually had to say that's off JT's. The 4K Lowdown says, I will write in Junior. And Nah Murad says, I chose Rosemary's Baby, but Aliens is the best. That mama alien was a baby machine. Do you know what? It actually pisses me off that I didn't think of that, because Aliens is arguably more about pregnancy than Alien.
Yeah, good point.
I completely forgot about the big pregnant
Blank
mama.
on my side as well. Blank on my side as well.
No,
it's because of the pregnancy in Alien. it just catches your eye a bit more.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
AJ, so not many comments for you to go off this week. So where do you think we're leaning?
9 months at number 4.
Yeah, well played. 9 months at number 4. 8%, which I think is brutally unfair given the topic.
But then it's got some strong films, hasn't it? I reckon in at number 3 is A Quiet Place.
No.
Juno?
Juno at number 3 with 21%.
Number 2, A Quiet Place.
Number 2, A Quiet Place with 25%.
And the film that I really just couldn't get into,
Rosemary's Baby decimated, mate. Fucking 46%. Crazy.
That's nuts. Okay, well, guys, as always, thank you very much for your participation. It's truly well and truly appreciated. Again, head on over to @MovieMTRushmore, and we love movies, movie polls for you. Good old JT, shout out to that man. And yeah, just keep voting, and you will be mentioned next week. Your comments do slightly help me win, but if it doesn't, I have to play the game a bit more. But no, the interaction is always appreciated. So, so Mixed Memorabilia just has, well, Pedro Santos first has said, keep this stuff coming. High Society is a great musical. Louis Armstrong was stellar. Mixed Memorabilia, shout out for Footloose and Breakdancers musicals. Pedro Sanctos, thanks again for the episode. Be well. Thank you very much, Pedro. Francis Lalonde, cool, great chatting, loved it.
Come back next week, Francis.
Really appreciated. Yep. And Frank Torres says, great show, guys. Have a great week. And to you guys as well. That's basically the best way to end it, guys.
Just quickly, Gavin Man says, I didn't hear Terminator. Gavin Man, I did shout you out on the last episode. I promised you I would, and you got it because that was such a good idea.
And it was on my list as well. So I do agree. And Gavin, thank you for the top stuff comment. You really do appreciate that.
Says Jaws the music.
You guys are...
love you
feels
guys.
like something you see in The Simpsons, but I love you guys for it.
I love you guys.
Guys, no, thank you very much. Keep the interaction, guys. If you are just a YouTube head, hit us up on Twitter, the Instagram. I've made a promise. 2022. 2021's dead, so I'm going to be reformatting a few bits there. So the vision is there. So Instagram will be there, but keep it there. And if you tell your Twitter people, you know what, it's fun discussing with Nico, but hey, the YouTube show is where the fun's at. So just keep it interactive, and then please tell a friend to tell a friend, because again, guys, there is no us without you. So we truly do appreciate that, as always. God, I haven't said that in a while. But until the next time, guys, I am the one AJ Anthony Jordan.
He is the one AJ Anthony Jordan. Guys, as AJ said, please tell a friend. So if you have people on Twitter who you think might be interested in actually joining us live, like Francis, like Gavin did today, bring them along for the ride. The more the merrier. We loved having you. Next video, guys, is this coming Thursday, 5 p.m. BST. It will be my in-depth review celebrating 30 years since the release of Beauty and the Beast. So we're going to go do an in-depth review in that, which is nuts. So this Thursday, Beauty and the Beast review, the original the 1991 version. And then next Tuesday, same time, 8:15 BST, we will be doing the top 10 musicals. So see you guys then. He's AJ. I'm Nico. See ya.